I was sent this '73 Ford Falcon XB by a subscriber, Bryant Johnson, a couple weeks ago as an incentive to make another Mad Max video. I agree the Mad Max series has languished in the background long enough, so let's get started. As always, I will begin by taking the car apart and seeing what I have to work with. How the car is designed dictates what modifications can really be made to it. For example, I have this Roger Dodger engine that I would like to place in this Falcon. Whether or not this is possible depends a lot on where Mattel placed the front post that holds the car together. Doing a little measuring, I determined that I could place the engine in this Falcon without removing the post. Removing the post is always possible, but it makes putting the car back together tricky as you have to glue everything together. The first thing I'll need to do to install the new engine is drill a hole through the hood. I use a wax block when doing this so I don't damage the car or the drill as it comes out the other side. After the hole is installed, I use small metal files to slowly create the opening for the engine. This takes some time, but the files are pretty good at removing the Zamac metal. As I get close to the final size, I go back and forth from the hood to the engine, removing small amounts of material until the engine fits perfect. Next, I'll drop the car into my laser to apply a little decoration to the hood. In my previous video, I'll go into more detail on the laser if you're interested. Here's what the hood looks like right after I pulled it out. The skull looks good. I'll name him Chuck. Now it's time to start doing a little bit of painting. I'm going to mask off the driver's side door and the passenger side front fender. Using an airbrush and rust-colored primer, I will paint these two areas with about 2 coats of paint. The paint job doesn't need to be perfect, as it's just the bottom layer of colors. The idea is to give the car that Frankenstein look where parts have been pulled from other cars and placed on this one. I will repeat this process on several other parts of the car and use both bright and dark colors. I'll also make sure to leave in details of the original paint job Mattel put on the car. I'll be applying weathering effects over those areas, and this is why I did not remove the original paint earlier. Using an airbrush, I'll go around the originally painted parts with the rust-colored primer to start the weathering process. This needs to be done very carefully as the paint can easily run on the glossy surface of the car body. Once all the paint is dried, I'll spray the car down with Testors Matte Clear Coat. With the clear coat dry, I'll move to weathering effects using weathering powders. Weathering is its own art form and is not something easily taught. The best way to practice is to buy the powders, I'll leave a link below, and then apply them directly to Hot Wheels cars. You don't even have to take them apart. Google images of rusted cars to use as a guide as to where the rust collects and where it's expected. The biggest issue most beginners make, and I still make, is too much rust. The more rust you add, the less interesting the car becomes as you drown out all the other colors and details. Here's how the car looked after the weathering was done. It looks dark right now because of the white background, but it's much brighter than what you see. I'll spray the body with Testors Matte Clear Coat to set all the weathering powders. While that dries, I'll load the plastic windshield piece in the laser and begin cutting an image in the windshield of shattered glass. The laser has no problem etching the clear plastic, and in fact I had to turn the power way down to keep it from cutting right through. Since I have the laser booted up, I'll go ahead and carefully load the body into it and shoot some bullet holes. Depending on the power I set the laser to, I can have it leave behind black burnt areas, or if I turn the power way up, it will pretty much vaporize the paint, leaving clean metal. Here I turn the laser down so I will leave behind black charred paint that I can clear coat over. You'll notice that the bullet holes are a bit out of scale. When I was doing testing, I found that if I put the bullet holes in scale, they didn't look right. If I enlarged them a little bit, then they would appear more like actual bullet holes. With the body mostly done, I'll turn my attention to the base. I'll be using the original wheels that came with the car as they seem appropriate for this type of vehicle. Using an airbrush, I'll spray the base and the wheels to give them a dusty look. I will then go over the bumpers with some of the weathering powders I used earlier to give them a weathered look like the rest of the car. Once I'm done weathering the base, I'll clear coat everything with Testors Clear Coat. So here's the car temporarily put back together. As you can see, I need to add a little dust to the body around the wheels. This is easily done by loading the airbrush with the paint that I use on the base and spraying that onto the body. It's important to spray the paint from the bottom up to get the correct dust look. Once this is dry, I will add some dust to the front and back and then clear coat the body once again. The last item to consider is the chrome engine. To give it a used greasy look, I'll spray the engine with acrylic black and then, while the paint is still wet, use my finger to remove the paint from the peaks, leaving it in the recesses. After this dries, I'll clear coat it and then apply a small amount of weathering powder. Once again, I don't want to rust up the entire engine, as this will cause the engine to not be as noticeable as it would blend into the rest of the car. I will then clear coat the engine one last time to set the powders, and I can then glue it into place on the hood of the car. With the glue dry, I can go about putting the car back together. During this video, I used a rather large and expensive laser to simplify a lot of the work. The shattered glass could have been done with an X-Acto knife, but would have taken much longer. I should note that much of what was done here can also be done with small Chinese lasers on Amazon. These are significantly cheaper than what I'm using. Let me know your thoughts below on this Mad Max / Gaslands car. I bought the game but haven't had a chance to play it yet. It looks really fun from what I can see online. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.